Welcome to our conversation over coffee and cookies. Today I have asked Heidi Wiebusch to join in a conversation around Emmaus. This group is a group that's committed to learning and exploring our immigrant population from Afghanistan, but I think it's actually extending beyond that.
All over the world.
All over the world. So I have asked Heidi here to just tell us a little bit about Emmaus.
Sure. So I was drawn to serving on Emmaus just because I believe in the human condition and that we are all people who have things in common no matter where we are from or how we look or what we believe in. I think at our core we all have a heart and lungs and we deserve integrity. So I was drawn to Emmaus because I felt that I could just bring some insight to the group and perhaps do something good.
Right. So in your time with Emmaus so far, what have you explored? What have you found?
So the Emmaus group here at Family of Christ got together a few different times via Zoom, of course, and we just discussed how we could best serve right now our refugees that are coming from Afghanistan to Minnesota, and how we could really look at what they really need, what's functional, and what would be most meaningful for them.
So refugees is a word that we're hearing now daily in the news cycle. And I liked that you emphasize what they need.
Yeah.
Often we want to give somebody what we think they need.
Correct.
But you are saying you really are setting forth to ask them. So how do you go about finding out what their actual needs are?
So the biggest questions are really, you ask yourself, if we were moving or if I was today telling my children, okay, put everything that's important to you in a backpack. We're going to leave our home, we're going to shut the door, and we're going to go to another country. You think about that and you think, well, if we are accepting people from another country, what is it that they are arriving with, and what is it that will be most valuable to them and most meaningful? And so that, I think, was the core of what we were asking our Emmaus group was, what can we do that's most meaningful? How can we not be part of things that aren't going to be helpful for them? How can we ask the right questions?
And how did you arrive at those right questions? Was there some sort of format that was handed by another organization, or how did you arrive at those?
So we did have a lot of guidance from the Lutheran International Refugee Services Group and Lutheran Social Services. And then also Beth Nelson was integral in being our group leader and just kind of guiding our discussion. And we're still honestly researching and exploring and looking at the best avenues to pursue regarding the Afghanistan refugees.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that they're integrated into society at this point.
No, and I think that the challenge, what really presents itself as something to think about is even our view of the word refugee can taint or filter how we approach the crisis. So in our minds, I think when we think of a refugee, we think of someone who's so extremely different from us, and perhaps we have whatever your image of that might be. But I challenge myself daily to think of it more as someone who is displaced, someone who is in extreme need, someone who is experiencing extreme probably heartache and extreme loss, and the basic needs are gone: food, shelter. All those things are needed, and so I think it's a huge challenge to face, but I think it's also something very specific and meaningful that you can find to help someone.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in becoming part of Emmaus or interested in finding out more of how you can be a good neighbor, loving your neighbor who has come from Afghanistan or perhaps another country, because we have to remember that refugee crises happen across the globe, and we're now specifically hearing a lot about Ukrainian refugees. How would one go about getting involved?
Well, I mean, a very easy practical way is to stay a few minutes after worship service and find Pastor Josh or Pastor Kim or anyone really, Beth, anyone in the office would be able to direct you on how to join Emmaus or talk to me. But there are a lot of resources here at Family of Christ. I want to touch a little bit though on how you were talking about love your neighbor. You spent a lot of time talking about that the last couple Sundays, and you know, we're talking about it here as, do we love our neighbor, and do we really have to, and how do we do that? I think one of the biggest challenges about loving your neighbor is it is often not a popular thing to do. Even though it's easy to say, love your neighbor and as yourself, and do unto others as you would have done to you. When it really gets to the nitty-gritty of loving your neighbor, it may be something that others don't see as acceptable, or maybe something they don't see as valuable. But I think the challenge that we have as Christian people is to say, I am brave enough and I am strong enough to love my neighbor, even if it is not what the rhetoric of the world is telling us or the politics of the world is telling us. To be able to see through that is really important and a huge challenge. One of the fundraisers right now for Family of Christ and for the refugee crisis is this beautiful yard sign.
There's a plug
that I will show you right now. But you know, it's just, you know, people are out walking their dogs and biking, and I think it's just nice to see this, to act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. It's nothing that sounds hard to do, but it ends up being a huge challenge. So I challenge you, I challenge me to do it every day.
Well, thank you, Heidi. I really appreciate you sharing about Emmaus, and feel free to ask any one of us about how you can get involved and learn more about our refugee crisis. Thank you. God bless you.